Let me introduce you to somebody, and let me bring him to the table. Tony, I know you're over there getting ready to do something, but I'm going to ask you to come up here and just share your heart, Mr. Tony Brooks. Whatever's on your heart, buddy.
Didn't Mike do a fabulous job?
Amen.
No, I'll be real quick, and I know this lady here, we talked before the demo about diverticulitis. In 2011, I'm retired military, and the doctors over at SAMC diagnosed me with a condition called Crohn's disease. Now, I never heard of it. It doesn't run in my family. At the time, I was having abdominal pain. I was having blood in the stool. And my wife had rushed me to the emergency room. And so they began to run tests, MRI and all this. And they came back, they said, well, we want you to go see a gastro doctor the next day, which I did. They did a colonoscopy, and they said, you got Crohn's disease. They said, you got polyps, and it's located in your large intestines, in the wall of your large intestines. And it's eating away at the wall, and that's what's causing the blood in the stool. And so I said, well, if it's there, and they showed me the section on the MRI, I said, just cut it out and sew the thing together and just let me go on. They said, well, because of Crohn's, it can be in one area and then appear in another area of the gastro tract. And they said, well, if we start cutting because of your age, they said by age 60, you could have a colostomy bag. And so surgery was not an option. So I said, well, okay, what do you do then? They said, well, we treat it with steroids to try to slow the growth of the disease. So they started giving me acetylene and started taking that. Didn't work, I kept flaring. So I was back in the hospital. And so long story short, they tried 3 different steroids and none of them worked. And they was like, well, as a last resort, we can try Remicade, which is an intravenous radiation to try to slow the growth of the disease. Now mind you, there is no cure for Crohn's disease. People that have it, they just deal with it. And you see the commercials on TV, all the meds that they offer, but it's a heinous disease. I mean, you're just miserable. You don't feel like doing anything but crawling up in a ball and just lying there because you're always in pain. So anyway, so my wife said, no, we're not doing the radiation. So they just sent me home. About 2 weeks later, we met Ron and Tisha Hicks, who are not here today, but I told Ron about what I was enduring, and Ron I never saw a demo, never even heard of Kangen water. So Ron goes to his car. He's one of these guys that travel with water in his car. So he goes to his car, comes back with a 5-gallon jug of water, puts it on the table in front of us, and says, don't drink no bottled water, no sodas, no Gatorade. Drink this, and I'm gonna refill it every 3 or 4 days. And so I did, started drinking the water, and within the first week, the symptoms started to diminish. After a month on the water, all symptoms went away. And I couldn't believe it, but you know, I believe in God, so I'm like, did God use this water to heal me? And I remember back in the Old Testament, under the law, the Lord told them to go show themselves to the priest, and the priest declared them healed, or whole, or well. And so my daughter had researched, and she said, Gilbert Chomley with the San Antonio Gastro Institute, he's rated the top GI doctor in South Texas. So I made an appointment with Dr. Chomley. I took my records from SAMC, gave them to Dr. Chomley. Dr. Chomley did his own test, did a colonoscopy, sent it off to Prometheus Lab in San Diego. Results came back 2 weeks later. He said, you don't have Crohn's. He said, however, I want you to come back next year. So I went back the following year, Now this whole year, mind you, I never had a flare. I was on no meds, wasn't admitted to the hospital again. And so I came back the following year, he did a colonoscopy again, still negative for Crohn. Dr. Chomley said, come back the next year. Went back the following year, he did a colonoscopy, negative for Crohn's. I went back finally in January the 15th of 2015. Dr. Chomley said, if all my patients was like you, he said, I'd starve. He said, I don't want to see you for 4 years. Now, from that day, from 2011 to 2017 today, I've never had another flare, never been back to Samsey Hospital or Wilford Hall or the emergency room. I'm on no medications. God used this water to do a miraculous thing in my life. And now, I always say what Michael said in the beginning. The Federal Trade Commission and the FDA will not allow us to say Kangen water heals or cures anything. But what we can say is the water strengthened and boosted my immune system to overcome what was trying to overcome it. It will change your life if you change your water.